Chapter 182. So that's the plan, then, Lady Vesuvius concludes. We replace the compulsion to love ours with a compulsion to dislike him, set that to cascade, then return later to wipe the slate clean. We'll have to carefully select propagation points and keep a careful eye on the epidemic, but as of right now, we just kick that off and go home, I suppose. We don't really have the resources to offer reconstruction aid to Baldoni at this juncture. I hesitate, unsure if I should bring up the obvious burning question. I thrum my quills, soaking in a little warmth and flexing my talons on the wood floor. They dragged me all the way out here with them, so I guess I can assume I'm allowed to be privy to what's going on. Even if I basically didn't do anything. Sorry, but isn't this just the plan that got rejected yesterday? I ask, instinctively raising my hand before speaking like I was taught to do in Templar training. I glance at Vita as I ask, since we didn't reject the plan so much as just her. She looks kind of embarrassed, based on her body language, one set of arms crossed, the other set doing the cross-body tricep hold that I've seen humans do when they're uncomfortable. Even her fluffy wings are kind of droopy. What did she and Jalisa even talk about? In essence, yes, Lady Vesuvius confirms. The main objection was how it worsened the prospects of island-wide unification, but the situation has been re-evaluated and the timetable for conquest has been pushed backwards. Pushed backwards, huh? So they're still going to take over the island and plunge it into war, just not right now. We're going to try to do the most good, Vita says quietly. Rushing things will only mess it up. It sounds like she's quoting something, but I quote things all the time, so I guess I can't fault her for that. It's weird seeing her like this, though. All vulnerable looking. Not physically, of course, my senses are screaming at me to devour her, to engorge myself on the raw, unparalleled power rushing through every last inch of her body, an urge that I know giving into would almost certainly mean death. Even if I were to kill her body, the only way I have to destroy a soul completely is to swallow it whole. And even that, I suppose, isn't even accurate. My digestive system is apparently just a conduit to an evil goddess, the creator of my species of cruelty. And of course she's apparently Vita's family somehow, so that wouldn't even help. I hate how people are taking her rendition of how the world works as fact now, but what I hate even more is that I'm starting to see it. Jalisa, in particular, made a lot of good points. Maybe the Mist Watcher is a god, but does that necessarily mean he's a good one? Vita certainly isn't, and if her claims have any accuracy to them. Whatever. It doesn't matter. Not having to deal with an island-wide war in the immediate future is more than enough for me now. Vita killed ours, we're going to. Well, I don't want to say fix people, but we're going to undo what he did as best we can. And again, most of these decisions were made without me. That irritates me, as much as I don't actually want to be part of island-changing decisions in the first place. I guess it's because I'm still here, for whatever reason. I'm still invited to this table of superhumans. I suppose if someone were to look at us, they'd assume I belong more with Vita and Penelope than I do with Jalisa Veta. With any human, really. But I don't feel that way at all. Maybe it was a mistake to get involved. It's times like this that make me feel as though I've never learned a single thing since the moment August died. I'm still a child that understands nothing but her own weakness. Yet for the first time since then, I once again want to be stronger. If someone else like ours appears again, if Vita becomes like ours, one way or another, someone needs to be able to stop her. All right then, Lady Vesuvius declares. We will be heading home then, albeit with a few stops along the way. Flying formation, people. That's first on my list of things to learn, I suppose, flight. Followed by teleportation. My speed on the ground means little in the face of those two things, and that's my main strength. I have to adapt and improve, as my species was built for. For now, though, I walk over to Penelope so she can pick me up. To my surprise, though, Jalisa also comes with me. Actually, Lark, Jalisa says hesitantly, if it's not too much trouble, I wanted to fly with Lady Vesuvius this time around. We have stuff to talk about. Lady Vesuvius, for her part, raises an inquisitive eyebridge, but doesn't answer. I hesitate, glancing over at Vida. I'm less than enthused to take a cross-island trip in her arms, but I don't really have a good reason to say no. So I nod, and awkwardly approach the lich I murdered that one time. At least she's looking as uncomfortable with this arrangement as I am, though I guess that's a bit weird in its own right. Vida doesn't tend to look uncomfortable about anything. Sorry about this, Vida murmurs quietly. I know I'm not your favorite choice of transportation, but I think Jalisa will be able to help Penelope with some things. Ready to go? I blink with surprise. Another unexpected apology. Not sure what to say to that, I turn around and lift my arms so Vida can get an easy grip on me and pick me up. She does so, her hard chitin limbs cool and unyielding where Lady Vesuvius's scales were pliable and warm. I shouldn't try to think about warmth, though. I'll cut her arms off if I extend my quills in this position. Lady Vesuvius and Jalisa start talking soon after our flight starts, though I can't hear them. They've put a silence bubble around themselves, so I guess it must be private. So, I guess I never asked, Vida suddenly says. What were you up to during the months I was gone? I was surprised to see you with Penelope rather than the Templars. I know you, really liked our squad. I tense up. Our squad? Really? She kills Melik, pretends to be him, and has the gall to say she was part of our squad. No, calm down. She fought with us when she didn't have to. She saved our lives. She only killed Melik because I killed her first. I can't get mad about something as small as a word. We learned that Templar Command was responsible for some perception event, or something. I answer as evenly as possible. Lady Vesuvius cornered them and Jalisa heard them lie about it. I wasn't really around for the perception event, but I know that a lot of people died. It was a big deal. They were evil. Yeah, Vida agrees. Yeah, they are white bastards. They arrested me in the middle of the perception event, you know? They got me because I was running around and trying to rescue people. Killing zombies. Helping. But they cared more about capturing me than saving lives. Yeah, I nod. I heard about that, too. There's an awkward pause. Sorry, she says. It's something that makes me angry, but I didn't mean to make the conversation about me. Alright, I can't take it anymore. Where are all these apologies suddenly coming from, Vida? I ask. Not that I'm complaining, but... It's Melrosa, actually, she says. At least right now. And I guess the apologies are because I feel like you deserve them, but I don't know what else to say. Oh, I answer. I'm not sure what to say about the apologies, so instead I say, should I ask your name whenever we talk? I'm starting to learn how to tell the different Ultrixes apart, but I still have to call her Ultrix a lot of the time. Asking as constantly is okay if you want to, but it's a little inefficient. We ended up not liking my first idea for a shared name, though. I murmur, thinking back on past conversations for something to use. What about Princess? You were making people call you that anyway, right? She chuckles at that. That's not a name, it's a title, she points out. Yeah, but if it's a name, I think people would be less opposed to actually calling you that, I point out. She tilts her head. Huh? She murmurs. Yeah. That's. You might be onto something there. Human independence, huh? I guess. It just feels like the kind of thing people would bristle less at, is all. Okay, well, when you're not sure, I guess you can call me Princess, Vida nods. I mean, Melrosa nods. Gotta get used to that. Not because I really want to interact with her, of course, but when I do interact with her, there's no good reason to be rude. I'll remember that, I say instead, since most people like to hear me say it even though it's guaranteed. I'm not sure what else to say, so I'm just kind of trying to get this conversation to end. Melrosa lets out a weak chuckle. Why no, it's kind of funny, she says. During our human life, Vida used to think she couldn't make friends because she wasn't worth anything to anyone. Too weak, too needy. She thought nobody liked her because she wasn't powerful enough to be worth liking. We have since disproved that hypothesis. Yep, sorry, I sigh. Turns out it was just your personality? Melrosa jolts with surprise, and I immediately tense up in fear, expecting to regret those words. What am I doing? I was just thinking about how there's no good reason to be rude. I see we're not the only ones who've changed. Melrosa laughs. I didn't know you had that sort of sass on you. If you're not careful you might even say a swear. I pointedly look at the ground, my awful invisible blushing reflex flooding my face with warmth. Why do I have to be clinging on to the one person who can actually detect when I'm doing that? I actually said the F word once, I admit quietly. Melrosa gasps in apparent shock, putting her two free hands on either side of her face. How scandalous. I know, I whine. Please don't talk to people about it. I feel so bad. Your secret is safe with me, Melrosa promises solemnly. The trip is a little more comfortable after that, for whatever reason. We stop at a few random places in Baldoni for Princess to stick her tentacles into people and replace their soul tumors with different, less evil soul tumors before we move on. It's dark by the time we get back across the chasm of disdain and into our little corner of the forest, which is particularly frustrating to me because it means most of the people I've been looking forward to seeing again are asleep. It'll be a while before I can actually talk with anyone. Tired of suppressing my raging instincts to take a bite out of the person keeping me in the air, I take the liberty of squirming out of her grip once we're above the town, free-falling the whole way down. I land in a crouch, my legs absorbing the impact easily. I guess I'm finally home, and weirdly enough this place is home to me. Now what should I do? Well, I suppose the obvious answer is to check my webbing around the perimeter. It's been too long since I was here, so I'm worried about it. Fixing everything up should keep me busy the rest of the night, as much as I don't really want to do it. I've been doing a lot of things I don't want to do lately, though. I'll be fine. I don't know where the others go. Jalisa has almost certainly gone home to sleep. Vida is probably doing the same, I've seen her sleep before. Lady Vesuvius, however, I'm pretty sure doesn't sleep at all, same as me. So who knows where she flew off to? It doesn't matter, I guess. I run to the edge of town and settle into a comfortable rhythm repairing my webs, checking up on the many delicious smells wafting from the occasional still-living monsters trapped within. As much as the ever-present part of me wants to eat them, however, I refuse it. Every meal I've ever consumed, be they in my capacity as savior or sinner, has been a sacrifice to a dark god that I cannot help but hate. The truth behind my fate is that I exist to feed the very evil which conceived me, and my only possible form of defiance is starvation. I know that, eventually, I will have to eat or else my instincts will make me. Indulgence, however, is no longer an option. Before, I avoided food that would change my body. Now, that's the only kind of food I can justifiably consider. Of course, none of the monsters caught in my web seem strong enough to be a worthy meal. At least the dark only lasts a little over 6 hours tonight. I could torpor to pass the time, but I'm restless and it feels wasteful. Doing all this repair work doesn't make me feel any better, but at least I'm doing something. Unlike the entire trip to Baldoni I invited myself on in the first place, unlike the fight with Ars or his splices which Vida and Penelope took care of on their own. The feeling of worthlessness remains through the rest of the night, settling in as a deep pit in my belly well after the island overhead finishes its pass and I wander back into town to greet my soon-to-be waking friends. I feel so restless. I need to do something, to help someone. Oh, hey Clark. I could use your help. I blink with surprise, looking up at Vida, or maybe Melrosa, I guess, floating above my head. I've been so caught up in my own thoughts I didn't even notice her approaching, which is a bit weird for me. Her timing and specific request is also a bit weird. What could she possibly want from me? Well, Penelope and I are going to seed Cassia with the fixed Ars talent, but I doubt she's going to be happy to see either of us, and the two of you really seemed to hit it off when you met. So I was hoping you could help us convince her not to attack us and junk." I squinted her. "Why me? The first thing Cassia did when she met me was try to choke me out." "Please?" Vida says quietly. Well, I guess if she is being polite I don't really have a reason to say no." I nod and she lands next to me, leading the way to our destination. Which is totally unnecessary, since I know where we're going. And the moment I think that she slows down, walking in step beside me. Okay, I think I see what's going on here. I just don't know why. "Aren't there better people you could have asked to help you with this?" I prod her. "Cassia and I have only met once, she was drunk for nearly all of it, and that was before I abandoned my position as a Templar. I really doubt I'm going to be able to do much." "You'll do better than me," Vida shrugs. "I mean, that's probably true. Low bar, though." "Princess, are you asking me because you noticed me thinking about not having anything useful to do?" She fidgets awkwardly. "Maybe," she confirms. "Xena taught me what patronize means, you know," I grumble. "Sorry," Vida mutters. Sorry. Look, I'd still prefer that you come, okay? We're taking her back to Skyhope after we fix her, and I'm hoping you'll join us for that, too. We can visit Harvey. Are they even going to let us into Skyhope?" I ask. "I mean, maybe not on purpose," Vida shrugs. "But hopefully we'll be able to work something out, since we have the cure to the whole soul plague thing. It would be way easier if we had the cooperation of the current authorities." It sounded like she had to force that last sentence out rather reluctantly. "You've never really had a lot of respect for authority, huh?" I ask. "Nope," she confirms. "Growing up getting abused by them tends to do that. And yet you're a princess." She's quiet for a moment. "Yeah, I don't really know how I ever thought that wasn't a contradiction," she admits. "Being multiple people sure is a thing. Jalisa is right, though. I have time now. I'm not being hounded, I'm not being attacked. I can sit down and figure myself out before I try fixing the island. If, of course, things go well with Skyhope." I thrum my quills, considering that. All of this makes sense except for the bit where you're reaching out to me, specifically, I conclude. I genuinely don't think I do much good here. You're a weirdo inhuman monster who eats souls and yet still has a good reputation among Templars, Vida counters. Someone to help us Animancers and non-humans bridge the gap is exactly what we need. An example of cooperation. I doubt I'm actually that important or useful as a symbol. It's not as though most Templars actually like me. Also, Vida quickly continues, "Didn't you want to make sure to keep an eye on me? If I'm going, it'd really help to have an extra voice of reason, especially one that has proven she can kill me." "I seriously doubt I'm still capable of killing you," I answer. "I cheap-shotted you with a trick that won't work twice, and you've gotten way stronger since then. You'd absolutely destroy me." "Well sure, but they don't know that. Humans are terrible at judging that kind of thing, even the ones that can sense relative strength. Weren't you human-like a few months ago?" She turns her head, staring intently at me. I can't read her face, but if anything the expressionless nature of her gaze just adds more to her next words. "No. I've never truly been human." I nod, considering that to be a pretty fair answer. Though it does bring up some questions. "By that same token, are you an Athanatos?" She makes a slight, startled movement, one that I suspect means she hasn't considered the question before. As such I don't interrupt her when her main response is silence, assuming that she's just busy thinking about it. We continue walking for a few minutes, almost making it to our destination before she eventually responds. "I am a Thanatos," she concludes. "But only in part. I'm certainly more a Thanatos than I am human, however. I like this body much better, for starters, but there's also just the fact that I feel a Thanatos in a way that I've never felt as a human. I belong on Liriope in a way I've never belonged in Skyhope. Humans themselves have made it clear I'm not one of them. Thanatos have made it clear I'm family. And I like it that way. You have a human family too, though, I point out. Oh, sure, she agrees easily. And I love them to bits, but I'm also pretty obviously adopted. Maybe if ours wasn't discovered and Ultrix got the chance to actually raise me, I'd consider myself human. But that didn't happen, and as much as my life was horrible, I think it's probably a good thing that I didn't end up getting raised by ours. Ah, I nod. I think I sort of get it. It's not really about your actual body to you, is it? Exactly. She agrees happily. I'm going to ditch this shell at some point, but I'll still be a Thanatos. It's not about what I look like, it's about where I belong. And you belong with the warmongering insect people that breed my kind as weapons, I say out loud before I can stop myself. Better than the warmongering skin folk that see my kind as blasphemies, she shrugs, not seeming offended. I frown, rubbing the top of my hand with another, feeling the soft texture under my palm. The adaptation is weak, unsuited for combat. But still. Skin's not so bad, I insist. I like it. Well, of course you would, Vita chuckles. You're basically a human. I gape at her, not sure how to respond. That's objectively untrue, obviously. I'm nothing like a human. But hearing that still, for whatever reason, sent a flicker of happiness through my chest. Then I remember that this is Vita, the woman who fed me my own father and slaughtered countless Templars and, while they aren't technically bad things, also took Claretta from me and revealed the nature of my species to me, both of which were horrible and traumatic experiences in their own right. If she's setting me up, it's just going to be to knock me down. So I don't answer her, remaining silent until we reach Theodora's house and Vita knocks on the door. A tattooed, rotting woman answers. Theodora, the blueprint for my friend Margaret, has seen better days. Though she's thankfully not decomposing in a way that smells, Theodora has very much been falling apart since well before the day I met her. She's somewhat self-conscious about it, too, so I avoid bringing up the subject. The many metal-laced patterns that once ran through her skin have since been largely transferred to her bones, leaving the exposed bits of her skull artfully interwoven with orangish metal that shines whenever caught in the light. Lark, Vita, she greets us, nodding once. Welcome. Penelope is already downstairs. How's Cassia doing? Vita asks, and considering that she didn't correct Theodora's address, I'm assuming this is actually Vita talking. I mean, she's understandably rather unhappy with the whole affair, Theodora shrugs. I've already pulled out the radars stuck in her and fixed that, but she doesn't trust us and isn't agreeing to let us put the cascading cure in her soul. Well, I can hardly blame her for that. My soul apparently isn't fully compatible with the Ars Plague or any of its derivatives, but if it was I'd certainly be leery about letting anyone put some variation of it inside me. About that, Vita mutters, her antennae twitching. On the, subject of fixing souls, Theodora. I figured it out. Or I guess more accurately someone else figured it out for me. Figured what out? Theodora asks suspiciously. How to free you, Vita explains. I can remove your soul's compulsion to obey me. If you want. If you want? What kind of? Actually, wait. No. This is huge. Super huge. Vita can make unbound revenants now. My revenant friends can be free from her constant mental influence. And she is admitting this and making it an option? That's extremely awesome, actually. Theodora's barely connected jaw opens and shuts a few times, bony fingers clenching. The holes in her lungs prevent her from inhaling, but she braces her body, shoulders rising like she's taking a huge gulp of air to steel herself. Do it now, she insists, before I think of some twisted knot with which to hang my courage. Ooh, poetic. Vita coos. Don't worry, Theodora, you'll only be dead for a bit. And just like that, Theodora's body goes limp, failing to fall to the floor thanks only to some arcane force holding her in place. Though I can't see what's going on, I can to some extent smell Vida's tendrils dance through the air in front of her chest, twisting and reshaping something in their grasp. Barely half a minute later, they recede, and Theodora's body jerks back into consciousness. She looks around, startled, seems to cast a few spells, then finally glances up at Vida, blinking owlishly with tattered eyelids. I feel exactly the same, she concludes. I still love you. Yep, I mean, 2 years of being a mind slave will do that to you, Vida says hesitantly. The main difference is just gonna be this, Theodora, flap your arms and caw like a crow. She flinches slightly, but then her eyes go wide. Oh, Theodora says. I no longer. I see. I still want to obey you, but it's not necessary. I'm not compelled. You're no longer compelled to feel the way you currently feel about me either, Vida agrees, nodding in confirmation. So feel free to start working all the way down to hate if you want to. I'll, leave that up to you. Since that is the point. Me next. A pitch-black figure rushes into the room, grinning a mad smile of deadly teeth. I'd like to hate you, Mistress Vida. Piero the Cunning cheerfully announces. Okay, first of all, it's Princess Vida, don't call me that other thing, Vida snaps. Second of all, no. Third of all, fuck you. You ate a whole city, you dick. You're mine forever. Oh, what's a little genocide between monsters? Piero argues, waving her off. It's not like I can get hungry anymore. You won't have to worry about me, princess. Shut up, Vida orders, and he does, his mouth snapping closed. Theodora died because she was a victim to my stupidity. You died because you ate a city and I killed you very much on purpose. You don't get to beg or complain or roam around on your own. But I'll consider ending your life permanently, if that's what you prefer. You may answer. Piero flinches away from her rage, his freakish legs drumming on the floor like a symphony of giant spiders. I'd of course prefer to continue serving you, he mutters. My apologies. Vida just huffs out an exhausted breath, looks towards me, and motions to the basement with her head. Let's deal with Cassia. Then I'll finish making the rounds on my other revenants, I guess. Did you already get started before this? I ask. I mean, yeah. I was doing that for a good chunk of the night. Most of the revenants you know are fixed now. Vitamin was first. Vitamin was first? Vitamin lives with Lynn and Rowan, who are right next door. Why'd Vida wait until just now to change Theodora? So yeah, barring Nora, pretty much everyone you know who wasn't like a serial killer when they were alive, is no longer under mental compulsions. Barring Nora? I ask. Vida shrugs. She, very firmly objected. I don't wanna do it without her permission or push her into it, but like, the concept of her permission is a little suspect whenever I'm involved. So I'm not sure what to do about her. I'll talk with her, I guess, I sigh. Thanks. Ready to see Cassia? Sure, I suppose. We head downstairs, the glowering face of a collared High Templar greeting us. Lady Vesuvius looms over her, looking rather frustrated about the whole affair. Cassia, the fact that I am persisting with this absurd argument at all, despite the fact that you are clearly going out of your way to be as intellectually dishonest as possible, should be more than enough evidence that I have no intention of mind controlling you. I promise, if that were an option, I would have deployed it by now. Alright, so you're probably going to use me to incubate a plague or something, the High Templar responds stubbornly. Cassia, that's not. Why would I even do that? Okay, I can see why I was invited to this now. Hello, Cassia, I greet. Sorry about all this. You've heard about the Soul Plague thing, right? Hey, kiddo. And yeah, but it sounds like a load of crock to me, Cassia sniffs. It really wasn't. We just came back from killing the guy, actually. Cassia scowls. Lark, right? That's me, I confirm. Considering what I know about how the human brain responds to alcohol, I'm somewhat impressed that you remember. She snorts. I'm not some lightweight, she dismisses. Look, you seemed like a pretty good kid. Why are you working in alongside a pair of animancers? They get to you already? No, they haven't, I assure her, wanting to point out that my answer would be the same either way, but getting the impression that isn't the best way to handle this conversation. The best way, or at least the best way I know of, is the same as the last time I won her over. To answer your question, I continue, it's probably best if we find somewhere to sit down and have a drink. She narrows her eyes at me. Not sure if you've noticed, kid, but I'm currently held captive. We started our first meeting with having something wrapped around my throat, I tell her plainly. We can have our second meeting with something wrapped around yours. Come on, follow me. I turn back to the stairwell and motion for her to follow, Vita and Penelope taking one look at each other before stepping out of our way. They brought me here to talk to her, so of course they're going to let me talk to her. It's not like she can escape with the inhibitor collar around her neck. Cassia takes a moment to process what I've said and then barks out a laugh, following me out of her cell and back up to the ground floor. She seems surprised as she looks around, realizing for the first time that we pretty much just kept her in the basement of someone's house. Weird place for a prison, she mutters. That's because it was a closet, I shrug. We haven't built a prison yet, and currently we don't need one. We step outside, into the middle of the growing city that I've come to love so much. Cassia's eyes grow even wider, soaking in the well-crafted buildings and well-planned streets, the smiling groups of people walking together in the morning light, heading towards the crackle of the communal eating areas which offer free meals to the entire town. You built all this in the forest? Cassia almost whispers, the surprise obvious in her voice. I didn't, no, but a lot of very smart and talented people with the right combination of skills and talents certainly did, I confirm. Are you hungry? I mean, yeah, I guess so, she admits. Then let's go get you something to eat. We follow the crowd, or at least what passes for a crowd here. It's nowhere near as busy as Skyhope, naturally. A lot of people greet me as we walk, and I answer them with a wave, keeping most of my attention on Cassia as her head swivels around to take in every detail she can. You have this many people living here, but no crime? She asks disbelievingly. We have no prison, I correct. There's some crime, but not much, and it's usually fairly minor. Only a couple hundred people live here, we just seem busy because we don't have a lot of space to work with yet. The forest is still being cleared out and held back. Apparently this community started with maybe 40 people or so, but after I joined up with Lady Vesuvius we started finding ways to contact the disenfranchised and suffering citizens of Skyhope and start smuggling them through the forest to live here. A surprisingly large number of people were interested, and things just kept on growing from there. Steady work and guaranteed meals is enough motivation for a lot of people, I guess. Of course, some people want more than that, and it's hard to really have more than a nice house and good food when we don't even have a currency yet. Everyone is treated equally in terms of general quality of life. Even Lady Vesuvius lives in the same kind of home as everyone else. Which is not to say that there's no inequality, I suppose. Some jobs are more difficult than others. Some jobs are labor while others are managerial. Some jobs require specific skills. And some people get really angry at the idea that their skills might not be as good as someone else's, and that they consequently do not get to do the kind of work that they prefer. Overall, though, things are run fairly smoothly. I expect that the problems will only increase as our population does, however. Thankfully, all of those problems will be the responsibility of someone who isn't me. We make it to the public cafeteria and I manage to persuade the people in charge of running it to dip into our limited alcohol supplies for Cassia. Food is far from scarce in the forest. There are endless sources of edible plants and animals, the latter of which I collect a lot of, giving me a bit more sway. Fermenting alcohol takes a while, though, and we can't supplement any shortages of fermentable plants by just killing more monsters, not to mention that the fermentable plants we do find are often used for a lot more than just letting people get drunk. Humans, however, apparently really love getting drunk, so we ration out the alcohol in such a way as to keep it generally available while still having enough to throw a party for special occasions. Basically, it's not too difficult for me to get a hold of, though needing to put in the special request it all makes Cassia visibly embarrassed, and that's probably a good sign. If she cares about imposing on us, she's more likely to care about what I have to say. I retrieve the food and drink for Cassia, find a table, and set it all down in front of her seat, dropping into the chair across from her. "How is it?" I ask after she takes her first bite. "Better than expected," she admits. "A bit bland, but not terrible." "We hardly have any salt," I admit, which a bunch of chefs have been complaining about. "Honestly, this is probably a fairly normal amount of salt for most of the world," Cassia admits. Skyhope is just used to having an excess of the stuff thanks to the great salt pits New Talcy was built on. New Talcy. A dozen memories flash before my eyes at the name. It's the city where I lived with August, after all, and the city that was destroyed by Kiero and Katavang, where Vida revealed she was possessing my friend. I push the thoughts aside, focusing as best I can on the now. Is the area being repopulated and rebuilt yet? I ask, feigning curiosity. There isn't really a city at all, anymore, Cassia admits. But the salt mines got restarted fairly quickly. We're still not sure what created the white there, though. Our only real guess is ours did it, but if it's true that he was hiding out in Baldoni, who's to say? Not me, that's for sure, I shrug. Well, hopefully we can trade for some of that salt in the near future. Regardless of what counts as a normal amount, most of the people here are from Skyhope and they love the stuff. She pauses at that, staring at me for a moment before taking another bite of food in silence. "You want to trade with Skyhope?" she asks after swallowing. "I believe that's the current plan." "Yeah," I nod. "What exactly do you plan to offer?" "No idea, and thankfully that's not my job to figure out," I say, shrugging. My job is mostly to keep the perimeter clear of monsters, but the crazy powerful people just kind of asked me to talk to you. What did Lady Vesuvius want? The crazy dragon woman wanted to cast animancy on me, she grunts, her opinion on the matter quite clear. Yeah, that was probably the cure for Ars cascading soul plague. She mentioned something along those lines, Cassia admits. Is it really true? I mean, if we go back to Skyhope and start chatting with infected people about Ars, then yeah, I think you're going to find that it's pretty obviously true. Actually, maybe that's what we plan to trade? Animancy defenses? Cures for horrible soul plagues? I don't know, I'm not sure what else we have on offer. You want to trade the cure to our soul plague? For salt? Cassia gapes disbelievingly. I mean, again, I'm not really the person who makes those kinds of decisions, I backpedal. I think we are going to be offering the cure no matter what, it's just... Why no? I'm spitballing here. Cassia stares at me some more and eventually decides to just spend a few solid seconds chugging her drink. You're a very weird little gal, Cassia eventually concludes. But I'll admit, this is not at all what I was expecting when I got kidnapped by a freaky bug lady from Murder Death Island. What's her deal, anyway? Oh, the princess. I mean, she's half Vida. She apparently convinced Iveric to stop attacking us? Wait, really? Yeah. She might try to take over the island later, but hopefully we can talk her out of it. We're already making progress. Cassia takes another bite, chews, and swallows it. This is all completely fucking insane, she concludes. Yeah, well, you should have seen what Baldoni was like, I gripe. Ars really messed the place up. Which is why we're trying to fix everything he ruined before dying. Okay, Cassia mutters. Okay, fine. I didn't want to say it to those treasonous monsters, but I'll play ball. I raise an eyebrow at that. Am I not a treasonous monster? I ask. Fuck no, Cassia smirks. You're a drinking buddy. Sure, you look a little spooky, but I had the time of my life relaxing with you. You got me good. Is that a reasonable basis by which to judge a person? Miles per hour, I'm overthinking it. I do not understand her, but I suppose I don't need to. Thank you, Cassia. We'll probably be heading back to Skyhope today, since the problem has the potential for an exponential spread. HRM. That might be a little tough. Your naked dragon woman is public enemy number 1, you know. I guess that makes sense. We'll have to bring the princess, then, I tell her. The two of them are the only ones who can make the cure. She was your boy Melik back then, right? Cassia asks, tapping her chin in thought. I wonder what she was thinking. Probably coulda killed me without too much trouble when I was pissed drunk. I really couldn't tell you, I answer. The two of us aren't exactly friends. Which is why I'll hopefully get to avoid this visit to Skyhope. I really just kind of want Vida to leave me alone. Naturally, though, when Cassia finishes her breakfast and we return to talk things out with the others, I'm firmly volunteered to accompany them. Lady Vesuvius, apparently, has a bunch of things she'd like me to check up on in the city, assuming Cassia can get us permission to go inside. Again, though, why me? Why do people keep asking me to do these things? I just want to protect people without having to think. This is all way too much thinking. Don't look so glum, Lark. Vida says cheerfully. Melrosa's way better at negotiating than I am. Everything will go just fine. Yeah, we're doomed. Chapter 183. Are you sure you weirdos don't want to just let me do the talking? Cassia asks. I hold back a scowl, supremely uninterested in having this conversation permanently ingrained in my memory for the third time in a row. Surprise, surprise, Princess and the High Templar aren't exactly getting along. Although for once, I think this is more the fault of Cassia's belligerence than Vida's. I guess because Vida hasn't been the one talking ever since we left the town. I'm sure, Melrosa insists. The problem, Cassia, is that anyone you speak to is just going to assume you're an animancy victim. I mean, that's true, isn't it? Well, yes, but you're not a victim of us, and it's what they're going to think. Obviously you should speak to some degree, don't act like a subordinate. You couldn't make me, bug girl. Oh, here we go. I hunch down and grab my ears with two of my hands, smooshing them down to try and drown things out. It doesn't work, of course, but maybe one of them will actually notice how uncomfortable I am and stop arguing with each other. Yes, I could. Melrosa insists with a touch of confusion. I'm an extremely powerful animancer with explicit training in making subordinate souls. Watch her below, why would you say that? This is the princess that's supposedly good at negotiating. But we aren't going to do that, so act naturally but let me do most of the talking until we get your status cleared, Melrosa finishes, sounding chagrined. I'm sorry, Lark. What am I doing wrong, exactly? What? I ask, looking up and letting my ears flick upright the way they want to be. I'm way too anxious to have my ears down. Well, I could tell that you were a little frustrated with how I'm speaking, and I don't understand. I feel like I've been explaining things calmly and clearly. I stare at her, trying to get my muddled thoughts together. The three of us flew most of the way to Skyhope, but we've since touched down on the forest floor to walk the rest of the way, as I pointed out that it would likely make us seem less aggressive to approach a bit more leisurely. And to my surprise, Cassia and Melrosa actually agreed. Now I'm getting asked about more things. Which is weird. I don't normally offer my opinion on stuff like this, let alone get asked for it. Maybe it's just extra noticeable to Princess that I have something to say because of her stupid soul-reading thing. But having something to say and wanting to say it are two different things. Honestly, I just don't want to get involved, but she did ask, so. If someone says you can't make me, your response should never be actually, yes, I can violate your agency at will. I mean, that's not exactly how I phrased it, Melrosa seems to pout. And besides, it's true. Yeah, well, it's true that my body is so insistent on your status as food that my mouth starts generating saliva just for standing next to you, but it's not exactly polite to bring attention to it. I snapped back at her. Like, how do you not notice that humans get uncomfortable about that kind of thing? You're literally an empath. Melrosa glances away, rubbing her hands together nervously. I mean, I'm not usually paying attention, I suppose. Isn't basically everyone aware that I'm an animancer anyway? I almost snapped something rude at her again, but I stopped myself. Something about this is off. Familiar. Oh, wait a minute. That's right. She's not human. She doesn't get this stuff. She's like me. Or at least she's like how I used to be. Humans can be pretty strange, I tell her, picking my words carefully. No offense, Cassia. It's just the context in which you bring attention to something changes how that thing is interpreted, I guess. And in most situations, reminding people that you're capable of subverting their souls at will kind of sounds like a threat. Oh, Melrosa mutters. That's rather odd. Humans are not exactly bastions of logic, Melrosa, but neither are you and I. All three of us have problematic instincts to struggle with. But you can get an inside look on everyone else's to help work around them, and the fact that you apparently just aren't bothering to most of the time is kind of annoying, if I'm being honest. I had to learn this stuff the hard way. A wide-eyed look of terror stares back at me from the two victims I've webbed to the bed. The people I'm about to eat. Something about their fear makes me pause, makes me wonder for a moment if I'm really doing the right thing. But the memory of Sharif's complaints, the way they hold him back from spending more time with me, remind me of why I'm doing this. For my friend's sake, I will eat his lark. Melrosa barks, startling me out of the memory. You okay? Inhale, exhale. Look forward, focus on the now. Yeah, I say. I'm fine. All right, she nods. Thank you for explaining. I'll try to pay more attention to that, I guess. Okay. There are, thankfully, no more arguments as we finally approach the edge of the forest, though Cassia has that thoughtful look humans get when they're interested in a conversation about something in particular but have absolutely no idea how to broach the subject. Normally I'd prompt her, but I'm not sure I can handle it right now. I'm too stressed, too frustrated. It's been getting worse lately, partially because I haven't been eating as much as I should and partially, at least according to Lady Vesuvius' theory, because of puberty. I very much hate the idea that my body is going through even more changes which give me more problematic mental compulsions to worry about, but I guess being irritable all the time is incredibly tame compared to what I'm normally repressing, so it's not as huge of a deal as it could be. Of course, privately I'm a bit suspicious about my irritability being the result of chemical changes in my brain or whatever. I feel like it's just as easily explained by my continuous proximity to Princess. Stepping out past the perimeter of trees is as quickly spotted and approached by guards. Props to Skyhope for installing more of them in our town's direction, I suppose. Of course, several enslaved farm workers are much closer to us than the people employed to protect them, so they all take the rather reasonable action of immediately dropping what they're doing and sprinting away. My legs twitch only the slightest bit, my instinct to chase them only briefly attacking my mind before I smash it back down. Vrothizo. One of the workers screams, which I find kind of rude. Immediately after, I'm startled by the realization that I find it kind of rude. Sure, I'm dressed and not attacking anybody and obviously civilized and working around with a Watcher darn High Templar standing next to me, but running from a Vrothizo is still a pretty reasonable response. I've just gotten really used to people being able to see past what I look like, I guess. It's uncomfortable to once again in a place where that doesn't happen. Looking back, it's kind of awful to realize I've been living with that discomfort like it was normal. I have done terrible things. Unforgivable things. But I've done good things, too. I've helped people. I keep a whole town of people safe, and I've never hurt anyone there. So why wouldn't they like me? It's okay for them to like me. I'm allowed to be liked. It sounds stupid in my head. It's something I've heard from my friends before, especially Xena and Jelisa. Of course I'm allowed to be liked, nothing that could or would restrict such privileges even exists. It should be self-evident. And yet, for the first time since hearing the words, I think I might actually agree with them. Realizing that. It kind of aches. It aches, and it makes me want to grin like an idiot. I don't grin, though, because I'm not an idiot and there's no good reason to show my teeth to a bunch of people that are already afraid of me. Halt. Halt, all of you. A pair of pike-wielding guards have finally approached us, weapons pointed our way in a defensive posture. I have to admit, the authoritative tone of the man barking at us shows impressive courage. Courage that is entirely unwarranted, since he barely smells worth a meal. Not that I'm going to eat him or anything. What unit are you clowns in? Cassia snorts, crossing her arms to indicate that she's even less impressed than I am. I said stay where you are. This is Vigor territory, and, if I may? Melrosa says, her voice cutting through theirs with what may very well be magical precision. By any chance did you two serve during the last Iveric night? The two men spare each other a passing glance. You did. Melrosa exclaims despite their lack of answer, joyfully clapping her hands exactly once. So then you probably saw my descent. And you saw multiple High Templars attempt, and fail, to accost me. One of whom you may recognize as the woman standing beside me. I can't see it behind their armor, but with my ears pointed their way I can hear them both swallow nervously, the scent of their sweat growing delectable with fear. My point is, gentlemen, perhaps you should consider moving this particular problem up the ladder, I do, after all, intend to walk into Skyhope today. Wouldn't we all prefer if I did so peacefully? Do you, realize that sounds like a threat, Melrosa? I asked quietly. What? She tilts her head. Oh. No, that wasn't my intention. I don't really get the idea of verbal threats, if I'm being honest. I prefer the clarity of ultimatums. That also kind of sounds like a threat, honestly, I mutter. And you realize ultimatums are a kind of threat, right? She groans softly. Look, if the two of you could just take us to someone actually qualified to have a conversation with a foreign dignitary, I'd appreciate that. If not, I can just find someone without your help. You are very bad at not threatening people, I sigh. No, that one was actually on purpose. You should just listen to her, Cassia insists, backing Melrosa up. This isn't the kind of thing you can just point your sharp sticks at. Cassia, ma'am, there's. We've been instructed to assume you as hostile, one of the guards stutters. And you think that means you should be blocking my way instead of running like your ass is on fire? Someone is piggybacking the animancy enchantment, Melrosa announces. Installed themselves as a voice of authority that the Ars Plague recognizes. These two aren't acting rationally about their orders because they can't. You still haven't sold me on the existence of this plague, Cassia grunts. Oh, right, Melrosa says absent-mindedly. Hey, you two. I'm starting to think that Ars guy maybe wasn't so bad. Animancy could do a lot of good in the world, don't you think? I mean, I suppose there's a lot of potential for societal benefit, one of the guards agrees hesitantly. Melrosa just gestures at him and stares expectantly in Cassia's direction. Yeah, okay, they're infected, she agrees. Let's try not to hurt them too much? I doubt they're dumb enough to attack us, Melrosa shrugs. They're irrational, not suicidal. Let's just keep heading towards the gates. Sure enough, the princess and High Templars step forward and the guards decide that this is a problem above their pay grade. They step back as the three of us walk calmly forwards, though I do make the effort to whisper an apology at them as we pass. They don't really seem to appreciate it, but I didn't want to be rude. Ooh, Brahm's not infected, that's good news. Melrosa announces as we get closer. Hi Brahm. There's a pause. I guess he doesn't want to talk to me, Melrosa pouts. Who would? Cassia drawls. But you said the plague infects people upon skin-to-skin contact, right? It makes sense that the big dork wouldn't be affected. Not very touchy, huh? Melrosa muses. I can relate. Though I guess I'm a lot better on that front than I used to be. Same, I add quietly. On both accounts. Really? Melrosa asks. I wouldn't have guessed. Physical contact with people makes me think about eating people, I admit. I used to be afraid that I'd attack someone for getting that close. But Jalisa and my friends have helped me a lot with getting more comfortable, I guess. Hugs with people you trust are really nice, Melrosa nods sagely. Yeah, I agree. They are. The looming wall of sky-hope in front of us is exactly as I remember it, at least. The terrifyingly rapid general decay of Baldoni that happened once they stopped doing general maintenance to better focus on ours doesn't seem to be happening here. Patrols on our side of the wall are more numerous, and growing in response to our approach, but I'm not seeing evidence that things have fallen apart. If there is someone pulling the strings with Ars Plague, they are at least a better administrator than he was. About 2/3 of the city is infected. Less than I would have expected, Melrosa says. On the upside, it seems we're going to meet the person in charge soon. Oh. I sniff for power, and sure enough there's someone on Cashia's level walking towards us, maybe a bit above her. A High Templar I don't recognize? That's kind of odd, but my guess turns out to be spot on. Someone in a High Templar uniform exits the gates closest to us and waits by the guards, arms crossed impatiently. Friend of yours? Melrosa asks as we approach them. Emphatically no, Kashia grunts. She's a splice, Melrosa comments. I'm aware, Kashia agrees. Well, everyone stay close to me. Looks like we're getting the usual greeting. What's the usual greeting? I ask, and then Princess Manta blooms all around us, just in time to prevent a series of sickly purple cracks in the air from ripping us apart. What the fuck do you think the usual greeting is, Lark? She answers flatly. A horrible screeching sound rips through our ears, and then everything seems to explode all at once, the cracks in reality all breaking in horrible ways that give me a headache to look at, or even think about, as my perfect memory seems to indicate. Then, with a whip-like crack, the rumble of a shock wave, and a flash of light, everything is back to normal. The shimmering blue bubble around us barely seems affected. You must be Enteritus, then, Vita drawls. I am High Templar Enteritus the Fractured, the woman corrects. Sure. Cool. Vita steps forwards, her wings spreading out behind Kashia, and I ask subtle encouragement to keep pace with her. Any particular reason you've attacked me on sight? It seems appropriate to discipline a child that betrayed her father. My father is busy tutoring children on literacy, and as far as I'm aware he's quite proud of me, Vita scoffs. So if you're talking about ours, let's set the record straight, I didn't betray him. I killed him. Permanently. And what a world it is that Vita has to clarify that particular point. Enteritus flinches at the claim, but in lieu of responding she just causes another brain-melting explosion around us. Which Vita continues to ignore. This doesn't even feel strange to you, does it? Vita asks her. The loyalty. It's like finding something you used to love in the trash and picking up again. It's honestly kind of a shame that I'm not here to kill you. Just fucking die, you blasphemous thing. Enteritus hisses, causing the world to erupt in purple once again. The ground around us is torn to shreds, the road obliterated in barely a second. Debris from the blast bounces harmlessly away from us. You must be used to being able to kill anything, with a talent like that, Vita chuckles. Chaos magic on your level would just rip through spell resistance in a blink, along with basically anything else. Shame you're limited to line of sight when casting it. You can't just light up the whole sky when we approach from the ground. You have to come to us. Your mistake. Watcher below, we are terrible diplomats, I grumble, feeling Vita's tendrils lash out all around us and bury themselves into the High Templar ahead, along with everyone else around her. They cry out in shock, some people collapsing to their knees, others seeming to wet themselves if the smell is anything to go by, but barely 10 seconds later it's over. Enteritus is one of the few people who remained standing, though she's clutching her helmet like she has a splitting headache. Fuck, she hisses. Yep, Vita agrees. How long have we? I have no idea, Vida shrugs. But you don't have to worry about it anymore. Like I said, ours is dead. Also, Brahm, I know you're watching. You wanna weigh in, here? One of Brahm's usual illusions pops into existence nearby at that, seeming to stare at us. I'm a little busy right now, Brahm says. Protecting the uncorrupted members of the Inquisition we have remaining is becoming increasingly difficult. Ah. I'll call the people after you off, Interritus says. No, wait. My motivations are universally suspect. The Lich got me, I should be removed from command immediately. Agreed on that front, Brahm nods. Oh for fucks, Vida starts to swear, but I grab her shoulder and she shuts up. Diplomacy, I remind her. Right, she mutters. Right. Sorry, I'm. Mortista's in the back right now. Can you get her out? I ask. Maybe. She hedges. It doesn't really work like that, but she's. I don't know. Give me a second. Sure, I agree, and turn to nod at Brahm. High Templar, I greet him, taking point so the attention can stay on me. I'm really sorry about all this trouble. It sounds like you're aware of the self-replicating animancy talent that's been infecting people? Lark. It's good to see you, he nods. And yes, we did our best to quarantine it but it reached critical mass before we figured out how it spread. Hence the current crisis. I know it's likely difficult to believe, but we have a cure and the primary purpose of our visit is to distribute it. It is in no one's best interest that ours be revered, posthumously or otherwise. I agree, but you have to understand that it's impossible to trust any animancy applied by someone with countless reasons to hold a grudge, Brahm answers. Even less so someone that has expressed an interest in conquering us. I understand, sir, I nod. The princess here is certainly a lot of things, but she isn't duplicitous. If you have a superior method of combating this problem, I wouldn't mind leaving you to it, but you have the practice universally banned. Don't you need help? I'm sorry, but our lack of options doesn't make her any more trustworthy, Brahm answers, shaking his head. I can help, Cassia speaks up. I can prove I'm not mind-controlled. Without an animancer to confirm, Brahm begins, but he stops talking when Cassia whips around and punches Vida square in the face. Ow. Vida yelps, staggering back a bit. What the actual, fuck you, bug girl. Cassia shouts, shooting up into the air and making rude gestures with both hands. Go suck a chitinous dick. She then flies off, shooting over Skyhope's walls like an arrow. Vida makes a bunch of furious noises that sound like swears in a foreign language and lifts off the ground to follow her, forcing me to grab her ankle and remind her, again, that we are here to do diplomacy. That really shouldn't have been a convincing argument, Brahm muses. But it is? I asked hopefully. It's certainly very true to her character, Brahm answers fondly, his head turning to Princess as she grumpily touches back onto the ground. Perhaps with significant oversight, we can work out a method of cooperation that satisfies both parties? I mean that's how compromise is supposed to fucking work, yeah, Vida grumbles. I elbow her in the breathing vent, eliciting a funny choked noise. I mean, yes, High Templar. I'd be pleased to work with you. Then follow me, and keep your tentacles to yourself for the time being. All right. I allow myself a sigh. I'm not sure how, but we seem to have managed the first step. With Brahm and Interritus both beside us, we enter the gates of Skyhope, countless familiar sights and smells assaulting my senses. Almost immediately, I feel my ears flatten against the top of my head, an instinct to hunch down and seem smaller warring with my growing instinct to burst forth and sink my teeth into someone as dozens of faces turn to stare at us. It's sort of a no-brainer on which one I let win. Hey, Vida, or maybe Mortista, whispers at me. Thanks for the assist. I have a tip for you, though, hold your head high. When people look at a ruler, they want to see a woman with pride. I'm not a ruler, I grumble. I don't ever want to be one. A foreign dignitary, then, Mortista acquiesces. I know we don't have a name for our little town, which is kind of weird, Honestly, but we're basically a new nation. Look strong, because you represent us. I scowl slightly, forcing myself to stand up straight, ears and all. Don't pay attention to the stares or the hushed voices. Don't think about the delectable smells or the gnawing need in my belly. Eyes forwards, back straight, quills down, shoulders squared. I am in control. It's okay for me to be here. I'm not the clueless little murderer that I used to be. So where are we being taken, exactly? Melrosa inquires, turning her attention back to Brahm. Do I finally get to meet my good friends at Templar Command? That's the sort of conversation we should have a bit more privately, Brahm answers slowly. The familiar quiet of a silence bubble springs into being around us. There you go, Melrosa says. Do continue, please. The entirety of Templar Command is compromised, Brahm says, not wasting any time. Worse, we don't know how long they've been compromised, and on top of that we have an information lockout regarding the second Ars crisis. If affected people become aware that they are affected and able to spread it to others through contact, they start putting a lot more effort into doing so. And we can't establish a proper quarantine because the people with the authority to do that are themselves affected. I've been working with what little is left of the Inquisition to protect those of us still free, but it has been slow going. I only became aware of the problem recently, Interitus adds. But when I became aware, I had already been compromised, and as such I immediately joined the efforts to spread it. My status as a splice affording me abnormal levels of authority among the victims. As is, I do not know what to feel or think. My soul has very obviously been modified twice now, so I'm the very definition of mentally compromised. Apologies for the rough treatment, Melrosa nods at her. Had you not been attacking me, I would have had time to find a better solution. Yes, Interitus gripes. I understand, Princess Vita. There's a pause. I'm surprised when Melrosa doesn't correct her on the name. Am I wrong about who Princess currently is, or is she just letting it slide? Actually, Interitus continues, while I have an easy excuse for the inquiry, I admit my curiosity. Is it true that Altrix is with you? Alive and well? Melrosa seems surprised, but she nods. Yes, she's part of our community. I see, Interitus mutters. If you can, please tell her that I'm sorry. Melrosa stares at the other woman for a moment, the hexes of her eyes narrowing in focus. I will pass along the message, she eventually responds. Interitus grunts in acknowledgement. Anyway, I'll be taking you to coordinate with the remaining Inquisitors, Princess Vita, Brahm says, and I'm impressed when I don't hear a twinge of sarcasm in the title. If they clear your methods, I'll trust their expertise. If none of them can clear you, I'll acknowledge we have no other options and a relative risk is still better than an inevitable subsumption by Ars curse. That seems reasonable enough to me, Melrosa agrees, and she drops the silence spell, allowing me to hear something that I never thought I'd ever have to hear again. Singing. And not just any singing. Claretta, I whisper, my eyes going wide. That's her. That's her voice. I'd known that she was alive, that she was in Skyhope, but I'd never gone outside the barracks enough to run into her. My first victim, my first mother, the woman who gave me my language and my knowledge and my face and my skin and my limbs and, why do you plant all these flowers around me, Lark? I look up at the Claretta, my left ear twitching as I stop digging a hole with my lower arms. My upper pair of arms carefully cradles a pretty orange flower. The Claretta says that colors have names like orange and purple, and I believe her because they are fun to say. I like flowers, I tell her. And I like you. She stares at me silently as I stare back, which is an activity I enjoy. Though her face and neck have a few odd colors that won't go away until next time I eat her. Those are bruises. I didn't know they went away because of her healing spells. I still like it. Her hair isn't as soft as it was when I first got her. I would drag her by it through dirt and mud. I didn't care that it hurt her. And her body keeps getting thinner and less tasty. She was starving. She was in constant pain. I still like the Claretta just as much as before. The cracked lips on her face. Oh, watch her, she didn't even have enough water. We lived by lake. Quirk upwards, which is something she does that always makes me happy for some reason. She is good at making me happy. This is why I keep her alive. I should have died. I wish she would have killed me. I like you too, Lark, she says, and a giggle bubbles up from my chest. She lied, of course. But the lies kept her alive. I look back at the ground, the soil freshly wet with Claretta's blood. I'm not sure, but I think the flowers might like it as much as— Hey, Melrosa says, putting her hand on my shoulder. Someone you know? I jolt back to the present, my eyes wide with terror and disgust. My breathing is rapid, my body tense. Claretta is here. It's Claretta. The beautiful one. She's here. She's close. I can't speak. I can't move. Hey, hey, hey. You're okay, you're in the now, Melrosa assures me. You need a ration? I open my mouth to respond, but I have to snap it shut before any words come out, suddenly afraid of my own teeth. Everyone has stopped working. Brahman and Teradus and Princess are all staring at me, and that singing is still. It goes silent. Princess has put the bubble back up. I breathe a bit slower. Vida stares at me silently, her alien eyes not revealing a single emotion. Do you want to avoid her, she asks, or talk to her? Avoid. Avoid. Run away and never come back. She should never have to see me again. Never have to think about me. I love her so much. I can't. I can't. Okay, Princess nods. That's up to you. But I'm pretty sure she already knows you're here. I can't. I shouldn't. I want to go. I hate that I want to go. I hate myself. What's the matter? Brahm asks. Well, you're both like privy to Lark's whole situation, right? Princess asks. We're walking near someone that she has a lot of history with. Like, before she was a Templar. Brahman and Teradus glance at each other. After the altercation during her training days, there was a biomancer who made multiple requests to meet with Lark, and Teradus says. I denied them, of course. I think her name started with a C? Claretta, I whisper. She wanted to see me. She wanted to see me. Why would she ever want to see me? Yeah, I think she's not doing super hot. I'm sorry about this, Princess hedges, and she is right. I'm freaking out and ruining everything and making it all worse like I always do, and— Lark, no. Princess snaps. Come on, it's okay. No one's mad at you, it's fine. I think you might need to eat. Are you hungry? I don't want to feed a monster, I whisper. The person who made us takes everything. Grows stronger. I hate her. I hate her so much. I hate her because she made me. You're not a— Oh, Lark, I promise Nora doesn't care. She's got a million different sources of food intake. Please don't use her as an excuse to not take care of yourself, okay? Look, I've got some food for you here. I think that, when I look back at this memory, I'll be able to tell how much time has passed, what exactly went down, how much of an embarrassment I made of myself. But in the moment, it all just feels like a blur. Everything in my body is more tense than it would be if I were fighting the most dangerous monster in the forest, my heart rate spiking and my muscles twitching. At some point, Vida manages to coax some anima-infused meat ration into my mouth, and the blooming ecstasy of her possibly divine soul takes over my conscious and unconscious mind for a blissful moment. Things are a little easier after swallowing, if only just. You back with us, Lark? Princess asks. Why yes, I say. I think so. I'm sorry. It's fine. Do you want to go talk to her? I swallow nothing, a nervous reflex I've picked up from humans. I want to see her and I don't want to see her. I'm eager and I'm terrified. I deserve this pain, but she doesn't. Yet. Apparently she wants to see me. She's singing because she knows I'm here. It's not up to me to decide then, is it? If that's what she wants. I'll go talk to her, I say. You sure? Princess asks. Yes. She nods at me, then turns to the High Templars. Brahm, could you escort her for me? I suppose so, he acquiesces, suspicion obvious in his tone. Yet a second Brahm appears and motions to me, so I step away from Vida and follow him. The moment I step outside the range of Vida's silence bubble, the singing returns. I shudder, squishing my ears down against my head. Does she really want to see me? What if they're lying to me? Claretta taught me that people can lie. I didn't know before. I didn't know when she was lying to me. I follow the sound at first, but soon enough I can follow the smell. I'd know her soul anywhere, even as broken and jagged as I would always leave it. It's Claretta. I know it's Claretta. My heart leaps up in my chest and the pace of my walk increases. Soon, I turn a corner and she's there, right in front of me. Her dark, mop-like hair falls over her heavily tanned face, lifting up a small, wet shirt to hang on a drying line. Behind her is a large, two-story wooden building with an abnormally large amount of fenced-in space between it and every other building nearby, space which a number of children are using to loudly and gleefully play. She spots me the moment she hangs up the shirt, and her song stops. Her eyes go wide. Her breath catches. She grabs her own thigh, as if to remind herself that it's there. But a moment later, she seems to master herself. She stills her trembling body, stares me in the eyes, and motions me towards her. I approach like someone possessed. The very concept of denying her doesn't feel like something I can process right now. With each step, her scent gets stronger. The memories claw harder in the back of my mind, taunting me, reminding me of each and every sin. The taste of her flesh, the sound of her sobs. Every last little torment and pain. All my fault. The evil I was born with will always be a part of me. I stop when I reach the fence. It's only waist high. She steps forward, stopping on the other side. I feel like a child again in all the worst ways. It's been a long 2 years, Claretta says, her voice as beautiful as always. Hasn't it, Lark? Why yes, I agree. The longest 2 years of my life. I feel like a complete fool the moment the words leave my mouth. A joke. Really? At this moment, with this woman. Claretta has a blank look on her face for a moment, but then she jolts slightly, a hesitant mix of surprise and amusement appearing on her face. Ah, yes, I suppose it would be, she replies awkwardly. You're much bigger than you were before. Much stronger. I heard you fought on Haverick Night, a few months ago. Yes, I confirm. I did. She nods, an awkward silence stretching between us. She's right about me being bigger. She's shorter than I am now. Not that I'm unused to looking down on her. I'm sorry, Claretta says, and I think they're the two most painful words I've ever heard in my life. Worse even than when she told me she hated me, all that time ago. I gape at her, utterly uncomprehending. She's sorry? She's sorry? W.H. But why? I blurt. Why would you ever? What could you possibly ever have to be sorry about? I tortured you, I tortured your friends, I killed your friends, I ruined your whole life. For months, How could you? You were a child, Claretta answers, looking away. I couldn't see that. I was too busy being selfish. You were allowed to be selfish in that situation. I all but shriek at her, water starting to pool in my eyes and fall down my cheeks. You should have killed me. Oh, I would have if I could have, she says, giving me a sad smile. But look at you now. A big hero, working around with high Templars, saving more lives than I ever could. It's hard to argue that things didn't work out and stop that. I yell at her. Stop trivializing what I did, stop acting like you don't matter. No one should ever go through what I did to you. I loved you, and contact. Warmth. Hunger. Claretta's hand is on my cheek. She wipes a tear away. I look up at her, up into the exhausted, tense face of a woman I hurt as badly as you can hurt anyone. There's no love on her face, no affection. She said she hated me when we parted ways, and she still hates me to this day. I forgive you, she says. No, I sob. I don't deserve it. Are you the one that gets to decide that sort of thing? She asks. Or am I? My jaw trembles, the tears flowing full force and preventing me from forming an answer. You broke me, Lark, Claretta says, pulling her hand away. You killed the woman I could have become and left me a hollow shell. But what do you expect me to do about it? Hold a grudge against a month-old child? She glances back at the kids playing behind her, the bearers start to a soft smile brushing her face before it vanishes. She turns back to me. I'm nobody. I'll matter to these kids and no one else. But you? You turned yourself around. You fought your demons, and best I can tell you won. You were better than me from the start. Stronger in every way that matters. She places a finger below my chin, urging my head up to make me look her in the eyes. I let her. Her face has a terrible expression. Bitter, frustrated, pained, and oh so exhausted. You're my legacy whether I like it or not, she tells me. You're the ghost that will outlive me. And by all accounts, you deserve to be. So I give up. I'm tired of hating you. I forgive you. And I'm sorry I couldn't be the one to turn you into the wonderful young woman you are today. Whoever they are, thank them for me. I can't, I blubber. He's dead. I.K. killed him. She smiles at that, the closest I've seen to a positive emotion since I arrived. Yes, she says. Of course you did. Goodbye, Lark. And good luck. If you hear me singing again, it's not for you. Don't come looking for me. Okay, nod. But I need to say it too. I'm sorry, Claretta. I'm so sorry. I don't care, she tells me, but I've seen her lie in my memory so many times I know exactly what it looks like. Something about that makes me smile just a little, and she looks away. But I know you are, Lark, she continues quietly. I know you're sorry. She turns and walks away, which I take as my cue to do the same. Tears and snot still waterfall down my face, and Brahm respectfully says nothing as he leads me back to the others. Or really wherever he pleases, since I'm not paying the slightest bit of attention to where he's taking me. It doesn't matter right now. I walk through the streets of Skyhope, blubbering and sobbing next to a High Templar, as the conversation replays in perfect clarity over and over in my mind. I forgive you. Chapter 184. I turn out of the hallway and into the medical room, taking care that the long, sinuous tail behind me follows my movements like a snake, the bend from my turn flowing down the length of my extended spine so that the thick body part doesn't rub up against the door frame and carve gouges in the wood. The act still takes a noticeable amount of focus, but I'm getting better at it. It helps that I designed this building for someone with my height in mind, though most edifices are not so well planned. My name is Lady Vesuvius the Inhuman, and I think I may have underestimated the inherent inconveniences of having a 16.5-foot-long tail. Which is not to say that I regret growing one. The added mess houses numerous essential and practical systems which far outweigh the daily inconveniences of having to micromanage my body parts to prevent unwanted injury and wanton property damage, but it's still something I don't believe I gave proper consideration in the design phase. Of course, my inability to properly consider my own design phase is primarily responsible for my body having been designed at all. So the fact that this problem will be a trend is becoming increasingly apparent as time goes on. Why did I turn my body into this? Is it because it's what I thought Guldra would want? Or is it because I was so overcome with despair at the prospect of no longer having anything but what Guldra wants that I needed to devote myself to whatever project would prevent me from thinking about it for the longest amount of time? Upon reflection I suspect it is the latter. And that concerns me because it makes the dire nature of my situation most clear. If altering my body was my strategy for disassociation, altering my soul was my strategy for suicide. And I succeeded. That doesn't matter, though, because performing the act caused it to cease to matter. Now nothing matters beyond my principles, my code for existence. Yet even they keep falling apart whenever I try to leave them alone. My methods of upkeep aren't long-lasting enough, and once the cracks started to show I've been struggling to plug the holes ever since, let alone locate and deal with the root of the problem. I don't even know what the root of the problem is. These are all lamentations for later, however. My own problems are many, but they do not prevent me from having obligations. Lady Vesuvius. An upbeat voice greets me, and I effect a smile on my face. Xena, I greet her in return. How strange it is to know the research that Manugas would end up doing some good. A kindred spirit in the art of physical self-improvement, my duty to Xena is among my most enjoyable. Insofar as I am capable of feeling joy, that is. As much as her enthusiasm stems from HRM, shall we say sources in polite and regular company, I rather exclusively have irregular company, so it bothers me little. So, things seem to be progressing pretty well, she reports, long since used to my disdain for useless small talk. The soreness and aching have stopped, and I think we've fixed that error with my hip structure so it isn't popping anymore. I think we should be good to progress? I grunt non-committally. May I use a biomancy scan on you? Of course, she allows, a hesitancy in her voice that I know has nothing to do with a lack of trust in my skills. She's tried to get me to stop asking, tried to assure me that she trusts me. She has quite reasonably pointed out that the entire reason we meet is so that I can use biomancy on her. It doesn't matter. I must ask for permission every time. It is what should be done. So I cast, gathering information from my protégé's new body. The hip problem is indeed fixed, at least for now. We'll have to monitor them as they continue to shift. These problems are of the sort that aren't serious, but can become serious if we ignore them. When I was bringing Nubas into being, there were times where the man I was using as materials suffered immensely due to my errors in judgment, his body shifting not just in ways he despised but in ways that didn't work. I tormented him through trial and error, but now Xena gets to reap the rewards of that experience. It was somewhat of a shock when she asked this of me. I knew it was desirable for some people, but it's still odd to have someone purposefully request something that I'd previously used as a form of maddened, deranged torture. I've often lamented the short straw I feel women tend to get in life, so often seen as objects of desire first and competent peers second. Not to mention all the biological inequalities, from physical strength to the ravages of puberty to just the absurd inconvenience, and ultimate pain, that is bearing a child. But never once did I consider solving that issue by ceasing to be a woman entirely. It did not cross my mind, and now that it has crossed my mind I still find the idea quite unappealing. I embraced the social issues and turned them into a weapon. I eliminated my own biological inadequacies. That is the way I thought things were supposed to be. I thought we were expected to play the hand we are dealt, and so I played with ruthlessness and ingenuity, rising to the top. I found great pride in that. Yet Xena chose to ignore that seemingly fundamental rule. She saw an opportunity to shuffle the deck and draw herself a new hand entirely, and I can't help but be impressed that she took it. She says that I inspired her, that my defiance of my humanity sparked the same desire within her. I am not sure my decision was quite so noble, but her words soothe me nonetheless. At least as much as anything can. All right, I confirm, finishing my scan. We're safe to continue progress. Okay, go for it. You're the boss. Xena assures me. Are you giving me permission to enact the biomantic changes we've previously discussed? I clarify. Oh, yes, Xena nods. Yes, you have my permission. I nod and get to work, my tail tendrils twisting to pull Watcher mana into the forms that I require. It takes a good deal of focus, but not so much that I can't start a conversation, and I do feel. Well, I'm not sure I feel much of anything, per se, but I haven't been properly keeping up to date on the lives of people that used to be important to me, at least in an asset maintenance sense. It is proper to ask. How has Bentley been? Xena jolts slightly, looking at me with a surprised expression. She didn't expect me to ask about her personal life. She didn't expect me to care. Do I care? My soul hurts, and it's an alien feeling I know nothing about other than its unpleasantness. I feel my chromatophores start to move on their own, and while I'd normally clamp down on the unconscious movement I let it play out on a whim. Pink. My scales are turning slightly pink. It is a color I chose to represent chagrin, regret, and embarrassment. But that was intended to just be an affectation, a purely conscious display to try and signal emotions that people would be expecting. A manipulation tactic. It's not supposed to occur unconsciously. Perhaps it's just a random error. I know my emotions are leaking somewhat, but it would be absurd to think that my subconscious is dictating artificial bodily changes it shouldn't have any inherent instinct to use in the first place. He's been not doing so good actually, Xena admits, snapping my attention back to her. Oh, I prompt. Well, he's actually been doing pretty bad since we started living here? Xena continues. I think it's a lot of things. Nora is a really big one right now. Vita, too. And, me. You? I ask. Why you? Xena squirms uncomfortably. I mean, we haven't really talked about it, so it's really just speculation on my part. I probably shouldn't say. That's your decision to make, I assure her. But you know I won't share anything you tell me in confidence. Xena goes silent as I berate myself quietly for being surprised by all of this. I haven't really paid any attention to Bentley or Nora or, well, most people, honestly. I just interact the degree necessary to do what needs to be done, and, well, is that bad? There's no principle which specifically forbids fraternization, but efficiency and time and action are essential to doing the most good. Therefore, I shouldn't feel bad for letting personal issues fall beneath my notice. They certainly aren't meaningless problems, but they are personal problems, and therefore not mine. I have an island to fix. I do not have time for these sorts of things. Except that I have time during these sessions. This very conversation proves I could have had conversations with Xena for a month now. I simply focus on other things. My skin grows pinker. My soul aches harder. I feel like two ragged stones grinding against each other. Bentley is gay, Xena says slowly, and I resist the urge to jolt. And I'm a girl. I answer flatly. Yeah, Xena confirms glumly. When we started dating it was cool. Just two gay dudes breaking unenforced Templar rules for love. Very uncomplicated. I love him to death, he loves me, it's great. But then I figured out. Why no, all this. She motions to herself. Her horns and tail, certainly, but more so her shape, the way her breasts have been growing, her face has been rounding out, her body has been storing more fat and keeping it in her thighs, around her triceps, and in her posterior. The physiological differences between man and woman are both more complicated and more subtle than most people care to think about. The designation between the two often left as an instinctive reaction that our minds are trained to notice without ever becoming consciously aware of. Xena has long since stepped past the threshold of androgynous, her femininity obvious to the deep levels of the human psyche that care for matters such as sex. And Bentley's sexual attraction triggers off of men. Of course, the best response to this concern seems obvious. I've found that there is more to a relationship than simple sexual attraction, I tell her. Bentley hasn't expressed any desire to break up with you, has he? Well, no, Xena answers. Not overtly. But he is a huge wonderful teddy bear of a man. What if he's ignoring how he feels to support me? Then you should talk to him about that, I answer easily. Bad communication is a far worse issue than bad sex could ever hope to be. Yeah, I guess so, Xena chuckles. Gosh, I did not expect to be getting relationship advice from Vesuvius the Inhuman today. I have faked enough relationships to understand how to have a real one, I answer, to which Xena gives me an odd look. Doesn't agree? Doesn't think the experiences are comparable? HRMPH. Incorrect, but understandable. Fine then. And I also had a real relationship for a while, I suppose, and it wasn't reliant on my partner's physical attraction to me, I say, ignoring the twinge of pain in my belly that I knew the topic would bring. Vita was very adamant about never wanting to have sex with anyone, but we loved each other all the same. If Bentley wants to stay with you throughout a change that negatively alters his attraction, then that speaks well of other parts of your relationship which are frankly far more important. I guess, Xena mumbles. I like the sex, though. Is it shallow if it's important to me? No, and if that ends up as a problem then that's okay. You can remain good friends. But there's also the possibility that Bentley is attracted to you, you know. Huh? Xena blinks. Wait, no. Bentley is definitely attracted to men and not women. I know that for a fact. In the general case that's likely true, but physical attraction is often influenced directly by emotional closeness. It's entirely possible that, even though you no longer look like someone he'd conventionally be interested in, he has simply retained prior attraction to you because he loves you. It's hardly unheard of. Think of it like someone still finding their partner beautiful even after that partner becomes horrifically scarred. I'd, rather not think of my changes as comparable to being horrifically scarred, Xena grimaces. I don't mean it like that, I huff. I'm just saying that attractiveness is far more nuanced than whether or not he prefers a penis to a vagina. There are countless examples of this. But what if it's not like that, though? Xena whines. Well again, that's why you should talk to him about it, I answer flatly. Maybe he does think you're hideous and is just looking for a good time to break up with you. Better to rip the leash off sooner rather than later. Oh watcher, you think so? I sigh. This is why emotions are terrible. My scales start to turn orange but I ignore that. No, I do not think so, I assure her patiently. I'm just pointing out that there is literally no scenario in which open and honest communication is a bad move. It is always good and it should always be your go-to action when you are feeling unsure. If you ever find yourself with legitimate reasons for this to not be the case, you are either being abused or your partner is too immature for a serious relationship and you should leave the situation immediately. I feel like you might be oversimplifying things, Xena grimaces. No, I insist. Contrary to popular opinion, relationships are not complicated. They are merely extremely difficult. Those are different things. If you say so, Xena grunts. It sure seems complicated to me. We'll agree to disagree, then. Blissful quiet returns as I focus on my work, coaxing the cells of Xena's body to multiply in new and exciting ways. I'm very tempted to test some of what I've learned from the Thanatos manuscripts on biological immortality, but... No, wait, what am I even thinking? That's not what Xena and I agreed on. I shouldn't even be considering that. As in, literally, it is not a thing that I should be capable of thinking about in a serious manner. And now my scales are yellow. What is happening? So, why haven't you and Princess talked yet? Xena asks, and I nearly miscast my spell. We have? I stutter. I haven't stuttered since I was a child. Well then what's up with your relationship, then? Xena asks. You talk about it in the past tense but Princess says you two never broke up. I mean, not officially, but I had my love for her scooped out of my soul by a maidwoman. I protest. I feel like that puts a fairly obvious wall between the two of us. But you never officially broke up with her, Xena presses. Even though communication is so important. Grind and scrape. Emotions spill from the walls of my soul, irritation, frustration, embarrassment, anger. But not love. I'm broken and I'm breaking further. I have a job to do and I must do it. Pink and red swirl around my scales as I try to focus on the biomancy, my talons twitching enough to dig gouges into the floor. I would like to ask you to stop talking about this, I nearly growl. Oh, okay, Xena agrees. Sorry. It is fine. Because it is fine. My principles say as much. People must be able and encouraged to question my decisions and call out my hypocrisies. And when my hypocrisies are called out, they must be fixed. This is what I am. This is immutable. I must get back to work, and then when Vida returns I must speak with her. There isn't much to think about in regards to Xena's transformation, unfortunately. It is not mentally engaging, it is merely a repeat of treatments that have been applied all week, the entire plan of her body already set in stone and the spells necessary to accomplish it already designed. While our preliminary work was far from perfect and corrections have been needed every step of the way, none of those problems occurred today. It feels like drudgery, barring pointless work that wastes my time. I'm not sure I've felt bored since I was stuck in Goldra's home with nothing to do. I miss her. The thought hits me like a cart full of bricks, and I feel my soul crack further from the impact. I miss her. I miss her. I know this to be true and I despise it. That insipid, arrogant monster killed me, crushed me more thoroughly than anyone could ever achieve, and I miss her. Perhaps I should have kept her alive after all, if for no other reason than testing some creative tortures. Just working on Xena has me thinking of 100 different flesh-eating, wait. No. How have things gotten this bad? I've been repairing myself. Except it obviously isn't working. I'm not safe. I'm not safe to be around. I have to stop. Xena, I need to end our session early, I announce with a calm in my voice that I don't actually feel. An urgent matter has come to my attention. You can maintain functionality on your own, yes? Yeah, I should be good to go, Xena nods. Everything okay? No, I answer simply, and swiftly turn around to leave. Having a giant tail is even worse when turning around is involved, but I'm not quite so out of it as to do something ignoble like trip over myself. Not that appearances should matter. Fuck. I storm out of the medical research building, needing to isolate myself for proper maintenance. The moment I step outside, however, Nugas falls into step next to me. Was she waiting this whole time? You're looking rather worried about something, my lady, she hums. I avoid an urge to scowl. My posture is under control. What makes you say so? I ask. You're bright yellow, Nugas smiles. Ah. Right. That. Well, no sense lying to Nugas. My soul seems to be crumbling like a house made of gravel, I tell her frankly. I need to perform emergency repairs. Shall I fetch former Inquisitor Jili Salvetta? Nugas asks. Just as a second opinion. No, I insist. I'm mentally unstable. I will be isolating myself. I will be joining you, Nugas insists. I glance down at her, consider ordering her to leave, then hate myself for it. It is one thing to make requests of her, and another thing entirely to order her in opposition to something she has decided. Very well, I allow. She grins. I ignore it. I rush home, Nugas having to jog to keep up with my stride. The house I had built for myself is nearly identical to every other house in town, with the notable exception of the quarantine room. A basement dug out and reinforced both physically and magically to be impermeable to diseases, it was built precisely for an event such as this. I should not allow Nugas to enter with me. I should not deny Nugas free will. The resolution to this contradiction would be obvious if my soul wasn't damaged, but as is I struggle to make a decision. Not making a decision is a decision. Nugas enters with me, and I lock us inside. Tempted to kill us all, my lady? Nugas giggles, clearly not taking the situation seriously. I should not have brought her. It is too late now. Any amount of temptation is too much, I answer. It is indicative of failure. My lady always has such high standards, Nugas hums. I have the fate of the island on my shoulders, Nugas, I sigh. I cannot afford mistakes. Oh, I know, my lady, she chuckles. That is why I shall always be here to help you avoid them. I curl my tail under me, resisting an urge to scowl as I sit down and start casting the requisite spells to diagnose the issues with my soul. Nugas, as she is wont to do, climbs up onto my lap. I do my best to ignore her and focus on the absolute mess that has become of me. The elegant strata of my soul's walls crumble and break. The defenses I built to house evil, to contain it and rear out it into something productive, are all seemingly useless in the face of whatever erodes it from inside. This is a far more significant problem than I expected. Souls are complicated and messy. From the initial seed the Mistwatcher plants in us, They grow with wanton purpose, budding pseudo-fractally as they expand and develop into the shape best suited to the mind they symbiotically latch onto. The miswatcher does not design people's souls, except perhaps for their talents. If any design was involved in the first place, it is a mere template, a seed with no purpose beyond growing. This growth can manifest itself in unique ways, leaving even souls that look similar on the surface with dramatic differences beneath. To understand a soul's function, one must start at the initial growth, the first roots latched into the target's mind, and read the pathways from there. In all people with talents, the talents are simple to find along these pathways. It is easy to see their influence. They hang just on the line between brain and spirit, suckling on conscious thought and shitting out twisted urges. My talent made me strong, made me feared, made me skilled. My mastery of biomancy is certainly in part due to my dedication and hard work at the craft, but it cannot be denied that I also had talent, that things simply came easy to me where others would have to put in twice as much effort to achieve half as much progress. Because I had this thing leaking into my soul, whispering hints and nudging thoughts to help me learn everything I could ever need to know about filling someone's blood with bacteria and turning their organs to sludge. My whole life it has pulsed inside me, telling me to hurt people and then laugh. And I cannot be rid of it. It tangles through everything, invariably growing into where it was just pruned. I have no way to pull it out at the root, not if I want to survive the experience, and though it should be hypothetically possible to remove a talent, its influence insists that I don't even wish to learn how. To my endless irritation, I realize that this is something that would have been very useful to keep Ars alive for, if he could be persuaded to teach anything that wouldn't be steeped in the stench of a trap. But no matter, it's too late now and I am nothing if not inventive. I could not remove my impulse to hurt, so I rerouted it. Avoiding talent use, avoiding growth, would misfire the sadistic impulse and instead cause an impulse to obey my principles. It was a bit of a hack job, so to speak, but it worked. At least for a time. But the ever-growing unfulfilled impulses remained, budding and bubbling inside me, and when I cracked my soul-fighting sky they found a foothold to infect the very walls I built to contain them, dissolving them from within. It's broken, now. It's all broken and only going to keep getting worse. The walls of my soul are cracking like an eggshell and I don't have the slightest fucking clue what's been going on inside. That was the whole point, after all. Everything I used to be was supposed to be bypassed, locked up, made irrelevant. I am a torturer, a war criminal, a mind rapist, an inhuman monster, and I should not be allowed to exist. So I removed myself, locked myself away, and became my own warden. As long as I held it all inside, I never needed to look at it again. It was not a priority. It was an embarrassment, a mistake, a horrid evil to be rejected at all costs. But now it's festering, infecting the walls meant to keep it in. I need a new way to fix it, and I need one now. Gulra only left me with so much blank anima to form walls with, after all. Why aren't you casting anything, my lady? Nugas asks. I blink, turning my attention to her. She's cuddled up against my chest. I suppose I can hardly blame her for being so obsessed with touch, considering what I did to her. My methods were insufficient, I answer. I have to plan and test new ones. I volunteer to be a test subject, my lady. Nugas grins, already knowing I'll deny her. No, I say anyway, because clarity is important. Oh, very well, she sighs. I'll just have to test things on myself without you. Much less fun, but we do what we must. I jolt at that, my wings spreading instinctively as my body, again, shifts from white to yellow without my input. Well, you keep refusing to finish me, Nugas pouts in explanation, and I know she intends the double entendre, but now's not really the time to think about that. I've told you many times I want to forget who I was before, but since you won't kill him for good I've taken to learning animancy on my own. Nugas, that's... What's wrong, my lady? Nugas coos, circling her finger just under my collarbone. You seem rather concerned at the prospect of me taking my soul into my own hands. I open my mouth, then close it, glowering at her. She returns my look with a smile of perfect innocence. Hypocrisy again, is it? I grumble. Oh no, my lady, Nugas disagrees. I think there is a significant qualitative difference between your situation and mine that makes them incomparable. After all, I am trying to embrace myself and be happier, whereas you are doing your utmost to be as miserable as possible. I let out a frustrated huff of air, looking at the back of my own hand. Pink and red again. Wonderful. Nugas snuggles up closer to me, her arm resting between my breasts in a way that almost, crosses a line. Any other day and I think I would have stopped her. I am an amateur compared to you, my lady, she says softly. So perhaps my theories do not hold much weight. But you and I are your two greatest works, and only one of us is breaking. Why do you think that is? Well, I thought it was because I had so much more time to work on you. I scowl, trying to focus on the disgust I felt after her creation more than the perverse joy I had in the moment. I altered your soul over the course of months. I altered mine over the course of hours. But that should have been offset by the constant upkeep I've been performing since then. My brain should have adapted by now, it simply hasn't. Well, I can't comment on that, Nugas hums. But I know that I love being myself almost as much as I love you, and I think that same joy would be beneficial to you, my lady. So what, then? I sneer. I should just drown my soul in pleasure activators until it stops wanting to have other emotions? Dope myself up on joy until I can't see how fucking horrific I've become. Nugas pulls away from me at that, propping herself up on one arm, back arched so she can glower at my face. Is that all you think I am, my lady? She snaps, her tone more serious than anything I've ever heard from her. It shakes me, and a few more shards of myself flake off as a result. No, I breathe. I'm sorry, Nugas. HMPH, she pouts, settling back in against my chest. I should think not. You're clearly upset, so I'll let it slide. A laugh falls unbidden out of my throat, my scales briefly flashing blue. You'll let it slide? I ask incredulously. I thought you considered me a goddess. I do, Nugas confirms with certainty. But my goddess has always been a known proponent of blasphemy. She closes her eyes, a self-satisfied smile on her face as I'm once again left speechless. The ache in my stomach just grows and grows, the horrid feelings I try to lock away leaking out in fetid bursts of animantic pus. Do you know how I know that I love you, my lady? Nugas asks. How? I prompt, almost automatically. Servitude, she answers. It is the act of putting all I am into bringing you happiness. It is the unflinching knowledge that any time I devote that is beautiful and joyous. I have friends. I have acquaintances. I enjoy telling jokes and teasing goddesses and cooking food and designing clothes. But it is in serving you that I find my most joy. Not just being with you. Not having your attention, not my admittedly enjoyable fantasies of laying in your bed. It is the act of making you happy that brings the greatest light to my life. The act of putting you first is the most selfish thing I am capable of doing, for nothing else is as fulfilling. That, I think, is love. I see, I answer, not sure what else she expects me to say. Honestly, she shouldn't even be here. I'm breaking apart. I'm becoming dangerous. I know I could break my principles now, if I was moved to. I have that power again, and it is not power that I should ever wield. What should I do? Remove her from my home and wait for Vita? Hope her skills and mine can form a solution? I feel hot, anxious, and increasingly unstable. I want to cry, I want to scream, I want to do 100,000 things I haven't wanted in months because I needed them gone. I needed to not want what she wanted from me. I needed to be nothing but logic and axiom made flesh because she was my only reason for existing, and now she's dead, she's gone, I killed her. I forged myself into a weapon specifically to kill her. And Nugas convinced me to do it. She enabled me. She set this all up on purpose. I want to hurt her. Gildra took everything from me, but at least I had Gildra. No. No, stop, this is insane. This is literally, actually insane. I'm suffering a severe breakdown and I don't care, she's right here, I want to hurt her. Nugas, I hiss. Run. She smiles, Vulpin and far too knowing. Is that an order, my lady? I open my mouth but I can't respond, wanting to order her away but not wanting to order her at all because she is not a slave, she's a person, she's a mistake I made, she's a victim and I haven't had a good victim in months. I haven't used my talent in far too long and it aches, it hurts and the walls are crashing down and I need something to blame, anything to hate, to hurt, to crush under my heel until the world remembers that I am motherfucking Penelope Vesuvius and I do not take shit from anyone. Not Uldra and certainly not my own fucking toy. I don't want to hurt you, I choke desperately. Come now, my lady, Nugas coos, reaching up to cup my cheeks. We both know that's a lie. Fuck her. Fuck her schemes. Did she set all this up to finally break me? Is this revenge? Does she think she bested me? You made me, Nugas says softly, scooting up to reach my face, because losing her hurt so much. Because all you ever wanted was someone who understood you, who knew you in and out, at your best and at your absolute worst, and loved you anyway. She pulls herself closer and plants a kiss on my cheek. You got your wish, she says, her breath tickling my scales. Isn't that a beautiful thing? My body turns jet black, and disease floods the room. A horrid cocktail of death, slow and painful and maximally horrific. A disease designed to kill, certainly, but more than that it's a disease designed to torture. To end a life in the most inhumane possible way. Nugas is a woman with terrifying pain resistance after all I put her through, but even she staggers the next time she inhales, the inside of her lungs attacked first. It's just enough damage to feel it, to shake every breath with agony but not quite suffocate. Things move on from there as the bloodstream picks up my abomination and carries it through her body, distributing it around so organs can fire off warning signals and skin can start to dissolve away. In barely half a minute, I watch as her arm starts to shrivel, the skin opening up with bubbling pops like sauce on a hot pan. She chokes, a thick yellow fluid dripping down her chin as the horrid, leaking disfiguration of her skin crawls up her shoulder and onto her face. She lets out an involuntary cry of agony and my whole body tingles with delight, especially between my legs. It has been so long. There you are, Nugas coughs quietly. That's the smile I haven't seen since then. What? Oh fuck, what am I doing? No, not like this. I halt my talent immediately, twisting my tail to heal her instead, to cure her, to save her from my horrid mistakes. She collapses to the ground and I reach forward to catch her, magic running through her body as fast as I can send it to her. Was it as good for you as it was for me? Nugas asks groggily, her eyeball leaking out of its socket. Shut up and let me heal you, I hiss. Is that an order, my lady? Yes, I snarl. She grins, looking like she wants to laugh but staying perfectly silent. It is not hard to save her life. The disease is fast-acting, but not on anything vital. The cold fear in my heart has nothing to do with any risk to Nugas. Nugas. That fucking. I can't believe she wanted me to do this. Why? Why do I have to keep proving myself a monster? Why, time and time again, do I have to slip up and fail and turn out to still be the same fucked up little girl who tortures ants in her mother's garden? I fix her almost as rapidly as I tore her apart, though repair is always a more difficult task than destruction. Especially so when my whole body shakes uncontrollably, my soul crying out in agony as the Watcher Mana I channel hardly even understands where it's supposed to go in my abominable mess of a core. It's broken. It's all broken. I watch her skin mend itself back together and wish I could keep watching it in reverse. What if I use my body instead of my magic? I could so easily slide my claws into her flesh, open her up from belly to breast just to watch the red bloom out of her. It would be so beautiful. Nugas licks her lips, a sultry smile parting her still repairing face. I ignore it. I must. With the last bit of myself I must. I cast a few quick spells to ensure she'll be able to heal the rest on her own, then turn and run out of my house as fast as I can. I take to the air the moment I'm able, shooting off into the forest, looking to be anywhere but around people I could hurt. I've failed. I've failed and I've fallen apart, and everything I've done is for nothing, nothing at all. I spot an animal below me and barely even acknowledge the species before a scream rips itself from my throat and I fall on it from above and stomp it into paste. My scales are still black. Black is not an emotion I decided upon, but I suppose is the natural consequence of trying to display every color at once. Anger, fear, joy, hatred, shame, pleasure, pain, relief, despair. It all pours out of me like blood from a severed limb, and I indulge it with violence. Like the creature I took my scales from, I devolve into nothing but a terror of the forest. Catharsis, in most cases, is a moment of calm. It is defined as a relief from repression, and I feel something like it as I rip through the forest indiscriminately. My howling roars nowhere near enough warning for the monsters I mash into paste, reveling in the indulgence of my every inhibition. Plague. 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 Even as I work my body, use my talons and tail to smash flesh into fluid and bone into powder, I unleash a far more potent death into the world. Plagues designed in my darkest moments, genocides hidden within my flesh and begging for release. Not all of them. Think the fucking inevitability of decay. What little sanity remains in my screaming prison of flesh holds tight to the island enders, the human killers, and the never-made hypotheticals that are theorized to be far worse. Death still sweeps out from me, cascading through the forest and leaving countless corpses to rot. So of course, the Vrothizos start to come. Their food falling in droves around them. Instinct drives the maddened black beasts towards the most powerful thing they can smell, me. I welcome it. Let me kill them all. Let me do something good for once. To slaughter these tortured creatures is a fraction of my penance for becoming one far worse. I'm mad. Utterly broken. I know that I will have to be put down. I will fight to the end regardless. I will kill all who oppose me, no matter how just their cause, because I do not want to die. Even though there is nothing left of me, I do not want to die. I cannot even spare the world that much. But as I knew she would, death inevitably comes. Hey there, Penelope, Princess says. Perhaps the monsters I am fighting drop dead when she arrives. Perhaps they were already dead, and I have simply been screaming at corpses for the last hour. It does not matter. I turn to stare at her, my body breathing heavily even though I can use magic to forego breathing at all. She is armed and armored, her custom dragon scale outfit imposing outside of the reality that just my skin is far superior. 6 daggers float in the air around her as she rests Nora on one shoulder, 2 arms holding her shaft, while her other 2 arms hold a second scythe made of frozen air. I, meanwhile, am naked and covered from head to toe in blood and viscera of countless colors. A maddened barbarian of gore standing in the refuse of her legacy. She stares at me, and I do not recognize what expression she is making. It's possible I've never seen it before. It's more likely that my mind is gone. Damn, Vitasize. You really need a nap. Every Thanatos targeting plague I have is unleashed on her in a single moment. Their immune systems, though both alien and advanced beyond measure, are still easily picked apart by the pulsing, evil thing in my soul, the part of me that survived more wholly than any other. Their breathing vents fail to filter out anything small enough. Their immune systems can be confused and delayed by specific protein configurations. Their organs only have so many redundancies. Their abnormal acidity does not protect against specially designed cells. She will die in 100 ways, broken and bleeding and burned away from the inside, dead in mere seconds of agony. No, Vita says, and a raging wind pairs with an ocean of blue. My offense is repelled, and my magic is sealed, all in an instant. Just give up. I'm not going to hurt you. But you should. But you must. But I don't have to, Vita shrugs. So I won't. If you don't like it, come do something about it. I leap forward with a roar, and our dance begins. Physically, I am stronger than her, even with her soul supporting her body. But she has 4 arms, invincible armor, weapons held by tentacles that can strike from any direction, and far more hand-to-hand combat experience. I don't stand a chance without magic, and we both know it. At any point she could end this, but all she does is try to keep me inside her mana bubble, deflecting my strikes and reinforcing my powerlessness. Taunting me. Proving that she's better. Arrogant little bitch, I hiss. It's probably better if we talk about you after the fight, she quips back. I scream and double down on ferocity, though all it seems to accomplish is increasing the burn in my muscles, the exhaustion I could wipe away with a single spell if I had access to my magic. My body is not designed to go this long without magic. I was never made to be Vida's enemy. Never. It hurts. I fight on. I don't know why. I suppose there's no why. I'm just a beast, a thing of unchecked emotion and fury. I tried to hold it all in. I tried. All for nothing. I start to slow, to flag, until eventually, I collapse, panting and exhausted. My body will no longer move. I have nothing left. Vida sits down next to me, and the two of us wait in silence. Despite my rage, my fury, she seems utterly implacable. She lets her scythe of ice sublimate away, dissolving into mist, and airs her tendrils sheathe her barely used daggers. She stares out towards the battlefield we just carved through the forest, her posture somehow casual and regal. A reclining queen. A force of nature that just swept over me like it was inevitable. There isn't anything to say, and yet there are endless things to say, all of it far too much. I don't love you, I decide on, since some part of me still wants to see her hurt. I know, she answers. Because of course she knows. I'm a fool to think that truth is a surprise. You wanted this, didn't you? I cough. You and Nubas both. I mean, we didn't conspire for this specific outcome or anything. This was, a pretty big surprise when I got back from Skyhope. But did both of us want you to stop being an idiot? Yeah, of course we did. This, I hiss, is what you think me not being an idiot looks like. This death? All around us, green leaves fall from dead trees, their branches and stems decaying away faster than the color can leave them. The mound of other corpses I've left nearby festers in the afternoon heat, the smell of rot coming quickly as my diseases continue to devour them. Monster blood soaks into dirt, turning it into a thick, repulsive slurry of mud. It's just death, mindless and wasteful. The sum of me made clear. Vida sighs, lets go of Nora, and motions her away. The scythe that was once something close to a friend flies off, leaving the two of us alone. This, Vida sighs, is the obvious consequence of you trying to pretend you don't have feelings. The mind runs off of feelings, emotion is the very core of consciousness. Of course your brain couldn't adapt to the changes you made, you were expecting an impossibility. You should have said something, I hiss. I was gonna. Vida snaps back. But you didn't want to listen. You kept ignoring me and pushing me away when I tried to talk about your soul. Because what was I supposed to change? I shriek back at her. You want me to be who I used to be, but I can't. Not just on principle, I can't. She's gone. I'm not that Penelope anymore. She glances down at me, giving me an odd look. Do you really think I'm that Vida? She asks. You're enough of you for me to still love. That's what matters. You're still brilliant, you're still driven, you're still a terrible person that's struggling to do the right thing. You're still the Penelope that will pick me up and dust me off when I get my shit kicked in. You're still the Penelope that built a safe place for my family. You really think that I, of all people, give a fuck if that's not exactly the same as it used to be? The ache. Oh, the damn ache. Don't say those things to me. I can't stand what I've lost. You could have put that love back, if you wanted, Vida says softly. Why didn't you? Shakily, my muscles still burning, I make the effort to prop myself up on one elbow. To stare her in the face. I wanted to see if I could fall in love again, I admit, my voice a whisper. Yeah? She asks, reaching out to grab my face. Then let's see. As she leans down, she also brings me up, pulling us closer and closer. It starts with our foreheads touching, the hard chill of her cotton pressing up against the top of my head, and that alone is enough to spark something inside me, something I can barely remember. But soon we lean and so my nose touches her, and then finally my lips. It's an awkward kiss, one-sided against her blank, porcelain face, unmoving and ungiving. Yet it fills me nonetheless, a warmth entirely unlike that which I felt when soaking in Nuga's agony. Calmer, richer, no less enjoyable but still profoundly different. A gift of love, from a woman that does not like to be touched. There's the slightest, quietest snapping sound when we pull apart, her face now sticky with monster blood, but neither of us think to care. We just stare into each other's eyes, breathless and warm. Huh? Vida murmurs, utterly ruining the moment yet somehow making me amused rather than annoyed. You turned blue. Why did you turn blue? It's the color I chose for happiness, I answer. You chose the exact shade of my mana and soul. As your color for happiness, she presses, an amused tinge to her words. Yes? I manage, trying to ignore how I am now also turning pink. I see, she says, helping me sit up a little straighter. It is an arbitrary choice, I insist. Of course, she agrees without believing a word of it. Would you like to kiss me again? Yes. This time, I pick her up, lifting her in my arms so she can be the one to reach up to my face. It's still awkward, still strange, but I don't want to let go. Neither, it seems, does she. I feel her mana questing inside me, pushing into my sore and battered mess of a soul, so I open the doors for her. Casting spells in my madness was painful, the Watcher mana fighting me and aggravating every crack and break within, but Vida is like a soothing balm, gentle and ready. I already know what she wants. I form her into an animatangibility spell, and she embraces me in truth. Tendrils wrap around my body and we hold each other like we haven't held each other in so long. Minutes pass like that in blissful peace, filling me with a joy I had forgotten was possible. So, Vida prompts quietly. Girlfriends? Maybe, I admit. She squeezes me a little tighter and my heart skips a beat. Probably, I amend. I am still unstable. I do not know who I am anymore. I do not know what to do. I don't think I'm safe for most people to be around. We can work on all of that, Vida assures me. Together, and with help from friends. We should, probably start with all the plagues you just dropped everywhere. We still need some of the forest to stay alive. I grimace, trying and failing to banish my horrid episode from memory. Another regret for the books, I suppose. I am not actually sure I can stop what I've done, I admit. The diseases I've used are beyond the bounds of what I would have ever considered acceptable while sane, and they have already cascaded out of my control. Then do what we did with ours, Vida shrugs. Make a disease to kill the disease. Like an airborne immune system. It could just as easily add to the problem, I argue, shaking my head. The number of generations it would need to survive to keep up with an exponentially accelerating plague could easily enable it to mutate, and if it mutates into something that targets beneficial microbes, then you'll handle it, Vida insists. You don't need to hold yourself back. I trust you. You're a fool to do so, I insist, but I'm already thinking of counter-plagues. I am cuddling a naked monster woman who killed a High Templar with nothing but her tail, drenched in blood and self-professedly insane, and there is nowhere in the fucking world that I would rather be. I'm willing to admit that I might be at least a little bit of a fool, and that's fine by me. I can't help but find myself surprised by that, I murmur. As much as I care for you, I never found you particularly self-aware. Or particularly humble. She makes a noise somewhere between a scoff and a laugh. Yeah, well, I like to think that we can become better people if we try, she says dryly. No matter how awful our starting point is. Oh. Fuck. That makes it clear, I think. Even more than the kiss. Vida's eyes crinkle into a knowing smirk, a tendril wrapping around my hand and giving it a soft squeeze. I can't help but squeeze back. I love you, I realize. I know, she answers. because of course she knows. I'm a fool to think that truth is a surprise. Tobe continued.